How's it going, guys? Anxious Cynic back again with another Mine-imator tutorial. Today we're going to start off pretty much where we left off last time. But I want to get a couple things out of the way first. You may notice down here that we have a folder. I actually got a tip from a commenter just in time before I recorded this new tutorial that told me that the folder adding icon is down here on the bottom left corner of the screen. If you can see that right there, that's where it goes. Instead of up here where it used to be, it's down here now, which actually I think kind of makes more sense due to the nature of the way the folders act within the animation in your timeline. So kudos to David for moving it there to a more, I guess, logical position. And kudos to the commenter. I'll put their name on the screen now. Yes, thanks to that person for commenting and... Whew. So now we can, I went ahead and updated our animation to that. So if you're following along in some fashion, I recommend you go ahead and do the same. And I also moved Steve to the position where the folder is about here on his midsection, which is technically where you want it anyway. And I was dumb last time for putting it at his feet. It's, it depends on really how you want to use it. That was kind of the default. If you're not going to do a lot of crazy animations, then you can leave it at his feet. Otherwise, for the most purposes, you'll want it around his waist or something, wherever you want Steve's point of rotation to be, basically. So if you want him to do flips and things like that, then you'll want him to have it around his waist or something, wherever you want his what do you call it? Center of gravity to be. I think that's what you would say. All right. So today we're going to try and get started and see if we can edit Steve to wake up. He needs to get up, and actually having this at his waist is going to work very well for us here today because we need him to wake up and rotate. And generally when you rotate out of bed, you do it on your bum, on your butt. So having his center of rotation there, or whatever point of rotation, is going to actually serve us well. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of the camera for now because we don't need that. And what we want to do is figure out how Steve is going to wake up. So generally, I'm going to try not to go into too much detail here because animating is something you kind of learn and get a hold of as you progress with your animations. So I'm going to try to keep it thorough with techniques, but not necessarily thorough with detail of how to do everything. Because, I have a tendency to be a little bit perfectionistic or whatever when I animate and trying to fine tune everything. So to spare you all the hours upon hours of trying to get his arm to swing properly, we'll just try to get it as close as we can, and I'll try to go over the techniques you can use to make it better, and we'll just try to keep things moving forward, if that makes sense. So as you can see, I've already created a new keyframe around frame 100 here. Now that's going to be too much, so we're going to go ahead and move it back and see what this looks like when we play it. Not a lot going on here, but we'll try it. There. So see, as you can see there, he moves his head kind of just suddenly. Blah. And that transition's not really doing a lot for me. And we also don't want it to start immediately. Let's say, we're eventually going to want to have the camera creep on him while he's asleep or something. So what we're going to do... Why does the body not have a keyframe there? All right. What we're going to do is actually copy this keyframe. And there's actually buttons here now where you can do it where you don't have to just use the keystroke. So we're going to copy that keyframe. And let's drag it to about 80 frames and paste. We'll click that one. And thus, Steve stays like that. And what we want to do is change this transition here by going to Keyframe Transition. And let's try the ease in and out one. So there we go. And we can actually probably shorten the duration there. That's so-so. Maybe not perfect, but you could see he kind of wakes up and is like, what is that? All right. And let's just go ahead and make it a slightly shorter one. Or actually, this one might be a little bit longer. Let's go ahead and bring that up. And we'll have him turn like this. kind of, you know, staring at the ceiling as some people do when they get out. They're like, whatever. And we'll change this transition to, let's see what this one looks like. Something like that. It's not too bad. Let me try it on that one. That's not working. Alright, I'm kind of getting caught up in the trying to fine-tune it thing. Alright, we'll just leave it like that. Generally, like, just say, like, you know, you want to imagine this being a realistic scenario. So here, he kind of just immediately goes into another one. You probably don't want it to do that because that's not necessarily realistic. You would want him to pause on that a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is copy-paste that keyframe so he pauses there and drag it out a little bit. Something like that. Let's drag that out to get back that longer duration. Alright, we'll leave it there. That's, I wouldn't say that's very good, but basically it's just a nice Steve wakes up and looks around animation. So what we want then is he comes back, and then let's say around this point we're going to have him bring his right arm up. So we're going to go ahead and rotate that up and inward a little bit. See what that looks like. Now, one thing I do notice with a lot of people when they make their animations is, you see how this happens here? See how long that takes? A lot of beginners seem to go with these animations where they have these really long, drawn-out movements like that, and it's not realistic, and it just kind of makes the viewer, you know, question how immersed they are in what they're watching, first of all. And then second of all, it just takes too long. You know, you'll get bored in the time that you're waiting for his arm to come up. So we're going to go ahead and drag that in. Sometimes, like, you don't want the animation to be too quick and jerky, but oftentimes making it a little bit faster than you might intend, or, you know, your intuition is telling you, is actually a little better. So we're going to change this transition here. Let's see if we can give it, let's see, a little bit of a bounce maybe. Oh, not that one. There's actually, let's see, these keyframes here, when you notice, like, at the very bottom, like, you may have a hard time seeing this on the screen here, but on yours, you'll notice there's a little bit of a bevel towards the beginning or the end of the keyframe transition. And you notice it right there? That little bit of a difference where his arm bounces up and back. And those can be helpful in creating some more realistic motions, because having it just go and stop linearly is not a very realistic animation type. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and maybe about the same time that he's bringing his arm up, we'll have him start to lift his body up. Now, once again, this may not look the best. This is not going to be like a top-notch quality animation. This is just to show you guys the tricks. So sorry to continue reiterating that. Oh my god, I have the wrong thing. Alright, let's go ahead and get rid of those. I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard, but you could use the buttons down here. I'm just used to using those from the other older versions. Alright, here we go, the body. Alright, so we're going to tilt up like this, maybe? Something like that. It looks pretty good. So as he does that, it kind of looks a little bit rigid there, so we're going to give him a transition. Let's try this one. Ugh. Alright, that's a little bit slow, so let's go ahead and bring it in. Alright, and what we may want to do is actually have the arm kind of go with it a little bit better. Jeez, that transition is making it go really fast. Hang on. There we go. Basically, you just want to try to make things look as realistic as possible. And we're kind of starting off on at a disadvantage having him laying down like this. This is a pretty tough position to have to animate the character out of. Let's actually try bringing this one out like this. Yeah, that's a little better. Have him kind of, yeah, something like that. That way, he kind of like lifts up all together. And then at the same time, we're going to have his left arm. You know, generally people don't use their abs right when they get up in the morning. They don't want to have to do an ab workout just to get out of bed. So you use your arm a little bit to push you out of bed, right? So we'll have this go here, and he does like that. So what we could do to make this even more realistic here, now this may, let me see, this may cause a little bit of trouble, but we'll try it real quick. So as he's looking around here, let's say we have his body. Let's go ahead and add 2 keyframes there so he doesn't move unnecessarily. We're going to have him rotate a little bit, and then as he rotates there, what we want to do is have his arm. Let's go ahead and create a couple of keyframes there. We're going to have his arm bend a little bit and come back, kind of like how, you know, you might sit up on your elbow a little bit when you're getting up in the morning, like, I don't want to get up. So let's do like that. All right, and then the problem that we have here is that he goes back to that 0 rotation. So what we're going to do is see what that's at, negative 1354. So let's just see what we can do with a negative 14 even. So it'll kind of continue to be a little bit. There we go. All right, and then we have the problem here of his arm coming back. So let's go ahead and do that. Bend a little bit and see what that looks like. All right, what we're going to do instead here is delete this keyframe. We're going to click that this time, and then we're going to copy this one and then paste it right there. So that way his arm won't move. There we go. And then for this transition here, let's say, what do we have on this one? The ease in. So we're going to use the same transition, and we're going to try so that it kind of moves similarly with the body here. Something like that. Move that keyframe back so it's in sync. And as you can see, that's a little bit too rigid to have them both occur at the same time. Now, depending on where your camera is, you may not even notice this. So, you know, it may not be that big of a deal. Oftentimes, I'll try to animate things a little bit just in case I change my cinematography, or just because I'm picky about it and I want to make it, you know, happen as realistically as possible. But as you can see, he gets up, and so everything's not too bad. This is not the smoothest that we could make it, but it's not too bad. And let's say as he gets up, his right leg, let's see, which one's the right one? Here we go. Generally, you know, things tend to move around. Your whole body's not just rigid. And when you get up like this, let's say, you know, that kind of pushes his leg out, you know, bends a little bit more with the bed. He's kind of just trying to get himself up. Let's go ahead and have that angle down a little bit more. And we'll have this leg do similarly. Whereas, let's see. What if he kind of brings this one up a little bit? Something like that. Let's bring it out. Also to note, this really isn't that big of a tip, but when you're trying to rotate, sometimes if you try to stay on here or too far in, it's hard to kind of pinpoint it. So you can click and drag and like hold your cursor out further, and it'll make the movement a little smoother and a little more less jerky, where you can kind of get it where you want it to be. All right, so let's say, we used the wrong keyframe. What I'm going to do is see if we can reverse these. I'll drag that one back there and that one back there. Problem solved. I've done it. Crisis averted. So you see, I used the wrong keyframe, but by reversing them there, we've created the animation that we wanted, so that's good. All right, so let's just take a look at this as a whole. He's sleeping, and he wakes up, he's like, ugh, and then he gets up, and as you can see, everything works fairly well. I feel like his leg, I feel like maybe his body should turn a little bit. And as you can see, we have our stuff here kind of messed up. So what if we take the folder here and we're going to rotate it just a little bit something like that. And we're going to copy our base keyframe. Copy. And then we'll have this kind of take place right around there maybe. Yeah, so like kind of with that motion, he kind of goes up a little bit. And if we can, let's see. Which one is going to give us what we want? Neither. All right. So like what I would prefer to have is like his body to actually rotate a little bit here off like from his legs. But since our rotation points are so messed up, it will take a while to kind of finesse that into position. So we're just going to go with this rough animation here for the sake of the tutorial. And see if we can get him out of bed before we're out of time here. So let's see. He sleeps. He wakes up. He gets up. And let's see. His head. What does his head do throughout all this? It's not too bad. You know, the head can pretty much just do that. But just to give it a little bit more of a presence, let's say, let's go ahead and have the head do that. And here we'll have it like in between those two keyframes. We'll bring it back a little bit, and then we'll give it that same keyframe we did earlier. If I can find it. Or is it not here? Am I missing? There it is. All right. Let's see what that looks like. See that? It gives it the head just, you know, it's kind of quick there, but you might be able to see it. It gives the head a little bit of a bounce. And that's kind of the stuff you want to happen. Just to give the body, you know, the character a little bit of weight with his body, a little bit of realistic inertia and things like that going on. You know, it depends on how how realistic you want your animation to be. But that's not too bad. Just give him a little bit of that. And then say he sits here for a second. And, you know, he's tired. So he's going to just sit there for a moment. And then kind of look around a little bit like, ugh, I really don't want to get up. Right? And we'll drag that out a little bit longer. Something like that. And let's give this one of these. Let's try that one. All right. That doesn't look too bad, but we're going to bring it in a little bit because that transition adds a little bit more of a delay. So we'll do like that. And then now we're going to see if we can, as you can see, I'm constantly saving. We're going to see if we can get him out of the bed. But before we continue with that, I want to go ahead and address one issue that you can have is sometimes Mine-imator can crash. Like I had a lot of problems with the Demo 5 crashing, and sometimes you'll make changes and it'll cause a crash, and then you can't get the version back that you didn't make the changes with to try to continue your animation and not lose all of your hard work. So one thing I'll do is like navigate to the Mine-imator folder and go to your projects folder and make a copy of the folder of your project that you're working on and save it somewhere else, like copy paste it somewhere else. And I will make multiple copies as I progress through an animation and have multiple backups of different points in time as I progress through the animation. And that's a really good way of just double ensuring that you have a backup in place in case anything goes wrong, where you can go back in time to the point where you didn't make that change and can hopefully salvage your animation and avoid whatever caused it to crash or corrupt. So things like that or accidentally deleting it or anything that could happen. So I recommend going to your Mine-imator folder, which should be located under your main, like, I don't know what you call it. If you go to your Windows tab and click on your name, then it should be under there, the Mine-imator folder, I think. Could be wrong. I'm not going to check it right now. So there we go. He gets up. He looks around. He's just going to sit there for a second. All right. And then let's say he's going to try to just scoot himself off the bed. So we'll basically just have him rotate like this, maybe? Something like that. So he just sits there and then he decides to rotate. And as you can see, that looks horrible right now. But we're going to try and see if we can smooth that out. What would we want? What kind of transition would work here? Something like that. We'll actually give him one of these like this. It's a little bit fast. Let's see. Something like that. Let's have it drag out a little bit more. That doesn't look too bad. We'll try it for now. And what we'll have is like this. What we're basically going to do is try to get the position. Notice I'm lining these keyframes up here because this is the point that he starts moving. So this may be where you want other animations to take place as well. It's a good reference point, you know, where he starts moving and other things may need to start moving as well to keep up, basically, if I'm explaining that effectively. Go ahead and zoom in on our timeline a little bit. So he does like this, and then at this point is when he's at rest again. So we're going to take his left leg and drop it down and have it bend a little bit. And the right leg is kind of hanging off the bed, and we may want to bring it in a little bit. And let's see. Let's actually twist it like that, and then we'll use this one. Something like that, and then we'll bend it some more because of its position. See there? If we can see that, if I'm showing it well enough. Let's go ahead and save. I'm just going to continue like saving as I go, so just take note of that. Let's see, with this leg here, maybe we'd want it to kind of angle a little bit like that. Not too much. Let's bring it in. All right, something like that. So it basically goes like that. And we'll want to transition on this left leg especially. Let's see if we can give it a bit of a delay here. All right, that might be a bit much. Hang on. Give me this one back. There we go. And let's pick a little bit less of a delay. There we go. That's not too bad. And for the right leg, we may want to do similarly. Let's try this one. Or maybe we'll give it one of these, see how that works. That's not too bad. The left leg here might actually benefit from one of those as well. Let's try it with this one. It still clips a bit. One thing you may want to do, though, instead of just going straight like this, you'll want to add another keyframe to wait until his leg is actually ready to come off of the bed. So let's put it right about there. So he turns, and then that happens. And let's actually change that keyframe there. Something like that. So that looks a little bit better. But what we'll want to do is instead of this staying in the same position, let's see if we can straighten it out and bring it down. You know, maybe you wouldn't keep your leg in the same position as you're turning it, right? Something like that. Let's actually, since we are probably not going to see that clipping too much, I'm going to go ahead and like lower it just a tad. And kind of get a view of this as it goes here. I feel like it needs to start bending sooner, so let's drag this back. Something like that. It's not too bad. Let's actually go ahead and bring this in. Yeah, that looks a little better. Let's see. And as you may notice, like one of the things that looks weird here is his right leg is just kind of stationary. So what I want to do, I feel like it would actually probably curve in a little bit more like this. Yeah, I think that looks just a little bit better. Let's bring it over a frame because it looks like it moves a little bit at the end there. Oh yeah, now we're talking. I think that looks a lot better. Once again, it could be fine-tuned a lot, but I think that looks good for what we're trying to do here. And now what we want to do is get his arms to cooperate. Now, generally, you would probably move this arm here, the right arm, a bit as you're doing such a move. And oftentimes you might just rest it next to you a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and reset all of those. Bring it down and down a little further. Let's straighten it out just a bit. Give it a slight bend. Let's just say about 5 for now. And that's a little bit too far back. Let's do it like this. And then we'll have this arm come over a bit. Now this may get adjusted a little bit because we're probably going to have to mess with his body, which is here. So what we might have the body do is come a little bit forward and then give it a bit of a bend. You get all hunched back when you get up in the morning. So something like that. And then we'll go ahead and bring these here. And let's just say he's going to cross this arm over. Something like this. Let's see. Something like that. As you can see, his arm is clipping pretty heavily into his body there, but we'll just try to go with it. Let's just have him actually bring both of his hands up onto his lap, basically. The sleepy stance, like, I just can't be bothered. There we go. See what that looks like. Oh yeah, that doesn't look too bad. And as you can see here with the arm that's kind of moving a little bit rigidly, but I don't know if I want to add a transition to that. So what I'm going to do is just give it a slight bump. Just a little bit like that. See, it gives it that slight little, that little nudge there at the end, so we can kind of do that manually as well. And let's see, maybe we'll bring it in a couple of frames. Yeah, that gives it a little bit more natural look. All right, so we have him get up. Let's see, tilts over. He gets up like that. That doesn't look too bad. And let's have the head kind of do something as well. Whoa, all right. Have the head do like this a little bit. Maybe turn. He's so sleepy, man. He just woke up. There we go. Doesn't look too bad. Let's actually give the head a transition here. Maybe one of those. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. It's blocky a little bit, but I mean it'll suffice. Hang on, no. Click the timeline. Let's see what that looks like as a whole. All right, it's getting there. It's not where I would want it exactly, but it's not too bad. All right, so let's just say he's gonna sit here for a moment. Let's go to, I don't know, we'll go somewhere around here, maybe 195. And what I'm gonna do is create a keyframe for every part. And now that we have that, we can use this as kind of like a new starting basis for our next set of animations. So generally what you might do in this scenario is have Steve bring his arm down and like lean to help himself get up, right? Something like that. So let's just say if we take this one and then we'll straighten his arm out a little bit, something like this. Let's give it a slight bend, just a little bit to make it look a little more natural. Just Control A on that and we'll hit just the number 3. Select his body again. And I want to select the red one. There we go. Something like that. That's not too bad. It may not be like 100% hitting it, but once again, like something like this, like you see how his arm's not actually, or his hand's not actually hitting the bed, you can have the camera angle like up like this or something, and it'll still pretty much look like it. So it depends on how your shadows are moving and things like that, but you can kind of get away with things sometimes. So if it makes it a little bit easier, then more power to you. Let's see. Maybe we'll have this one drop down a little as he's doing it, kind of curve in because he's leaning this way. And there. So basically he's up, he sits there, and then he suddenly does that. Let's move that out just a little bit. That's a little too far. Let's try 205. So he goes like this, and then at that point, right around here, this is where you might want to have, let's see, this leg like this, and then we'll have our folder. And then let's do like that. And we're gonna like tilt a little bit like this. We're gonna see if that works. This may not be the best way to go about it, but we're gonna try it. Do like that. And as that tilts, we're gonna have his leg kind of straightening out a bit and going down. Whoa, that's not the one I wanted. Here we go. Do like that. So we have this happening, and what we're going to do is we're going to move this that way. All right, so what we're going to have here is we're going to animate his left arm to come back. Right? So we kind of want to get an idea of where his left arm is at this point, right here. So we're going to do like that. See there? It kind of gives it a little bit of motion, a little bit of momentum. And then I'm going to have the right arm going back a little bit. Let's just see, what if we turn it like that? Yeah, that's not too bad. All right. So we have it, if we can see it, have it come out like that. And then at this point, we're gonna, we could make it a little bit easier on ourselves and kind of give them a little bit of a hop. So what we'll do is bring it out. Just go ahead and set these. All of the default has like went a little crazy there. All right. And then this one, let's go ahead and bring the body back, and then, whoa, that is crazy. All right. Let's see, we want to get our rotation. Oh, not that one. What was it at? 64. Let's just do negative 65. All right. Do like that. And what we're going to actually have to do is use our Steve, because I think we have him rotated. Yeah. Like that. All right. So that's one of the issues that I actually did here is I used his rotation for the for laying on the bed, which is not good. That's going to require a little bit of work. So now that we have the folder and everything set up properly, yeah, you see, that's not very good at all. But now that we have the folder set up properly, we'll, that wouldn't be an issue, but right now it is going to be. So we're going to have to finagle it, all right? It's going to be a thing, but we're going to get through it. Let's see. This is going to be negative, 12 maybe? Oh, nope. 11? All right. We'll go with negative 11. All right, and see how that moves like that? All right, so for one thing, it's a little bit too far. Let's try to do like that. So with it doing like that, we may have to add a transition here. Let's see. Yeah, that's not too bad. That actually kind of gives him a little bit of a hop that we're talking about. Like he's woken up and he's hopping himself out of bed. God, this tutorial is going to be long. Sorry, guys. All right, let's see what that just looks like from a distance here. All right, so that's a little bit slow. Let's go ahead and bring this in. Something like that. All right, so that's not too terrible, but what I want to do is, I think, let's see, let's try this one. It's a little better. Still not sure if I'm digging it though. Let's try this one. All right, I think it needs to be quicker. That's basically what we're trying to do here. All right, too quick. So let's go with that one again. All right, we'll go with that. That seems all right. What we could possibly do here is, let's see, if we bring that down a little bit. I don't know, maybe just a tad. That way it doesn't have quite as far to go. It doesn't make that much of a difference, but we'll try it. All right. And at this time, I'm going to bring his arms in. Let's give him a slightly less rigid look. We'll bring him out just a tad. Let's make that negative 2.5. And then bend his arm just a tad. Bring this one up. And let's just kind of give it a slight distance. Let's make it about, we'll just give it a number 1. Oftentimes you don't want things to be too symmetrical. It'll stand out, you know. You want to kind of make things a little bit independent of each other, kind of have some realistic notions going on to how your body would move and swing and stuff like that. Same for the feet or the legs here. Kind of give them a little bit more of a part. Let's go with number 2 there. Oftentimes I'll try to give them a slight bend if I can, which means we have to give that a negative 1 to kind of compensate for that bend. Something like that. So, see what that looks like now that we kind of have him in position. Or wait, hang on. First, let's see what we can do here with the head. Let's do like this. There we go. Let's give him still a slight downward turn there. All right. And then here, once again, we kind of want to do like the head flies back kind of thing because he is doing this hop. So let's give it that one again. There we go. All right. So there are things we could do here, like with this little hop, but we're running way out of time. We could have his arms kind of fling more and stuff. But for now, I think we're doing all right. Let's go ahead. We'll give the right arm a little bit of a whizzazz out here because he is kind of doing a hop here. So, see that? Kind of give him the counterbalance that he's trying to use his arm to help him through this little hop out of bed here. So, this obviously isn't like, you know, if you're going for a slow, dramatic, realistic animation, you may not want to have him do the hop. But as it stands, I think you can gain enough from doing it this way to kind of find a better way to have them do it more realistically. But hang on, let's get rid of our keyframes here, or our selection. There we go, and let's see what we got. And there you go. That's Steve getting out of bed. That's really rigid and whatnot. But this is, like I said, it's kind of a tough animation. There's a lot that would be going on here as far as like body weight and, motion, inertia, and momentum and all these things that are going on. So this is kind of just giving you an idea of how you can tackle a realistic-ish kind of getting out of bed scenario. A lot of times, like something like this may be a little daunting. A lot of people might just have them kind of rise straight up out of bed and whatnot. So giving it all this extra little doodads and finessing can kind of give your animation that little bit of an edge and whatnot. So we got him out of bed, and from here it should be a little bit more smooth sailing, hopefully. We'll have him maybe grab something out of his chest and step outside or something like that. But for now, that's it. Sorry this was such a long tutorial for such a short bit of animation, but Hopefully you learned something from it. Hope it helps you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.